Happy Freaky Friday, America. Welcome to the Podcast Daily. That is Bill Landis, Jeremy Birmingham, and I am Austin Ward. And later today, in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, there's an open practice. What are we going to look for?
Football?
Football, okay. I think there'll be footballs.
I hope so. I wouldn't put it past Ohio State to have a
Today's tennis ball day.
Practice sans football while the media is there to watch the whole thing.
And they just do
trash cans and tennis balls.
Yeah, because we may not see what we want to see out of this day that's open completely to the media because the scrimmage is Saturday. So the next couple days are big. Today maybe won't be, even though we get to go see them line up and walk around and try and figure out what the latest goings on with the depth chart is.
So Ohio State opens up today for media because the Big Ten Network is doing their bus tour around to all the campuses and checking out colleges. 2 years ago, C.J. Stroud was basically anointed the winner of the quarterback battle on the day that the Big Ten Network arrived. And on that day, he sat practice out and did not throw the ball but one time. And so
it was a good ball, though.
It's one of those situations where you realize that college sports and college sports administrators are more than willing to give the old family-friendly middle finger to anybody, even the Big Ten Network, to say, we're not showing you jack.
That's not a family-friendly finger.
It depends. If you do this one, and you go like this, we're not showing you jack.
You're out?
So I think we will probably see very little of meaning on Friday, but I guess what I'm looking for is to make sure everyone leaves practice healthy because we were out here a week ago and you saw a couple guys get hurt, and then all of a sudden, we go from Sunday or Monday night where Omar Yabor is walking into the hotel seemingly fine without any issue, and then on Tuesday he's having a surgery that's going to keep him out for
what happened in the hotel, Berm?
That's the great question, the things that we haven't figured out. So I think that's the big thing is getting guys through, making sure that
Come on in, G.
G gets on the camera. Making sure everyone stays healthy through this practice so that they can get a full representation on Saturday at the scrimmage is pretty important.
So the way that Ryan Day described it on Wednesday was that, Friday specifically, probably not going to be that important, but that this first scrimmage is going to be really significant because Ohio State is trying to make some evaluations at a number of key positions so that they can lock in their plans and start viewing things from a long-term lens and getting ready for Indiana at the start of that. Which of those spots, Bill, would you like to begin with that is most interesting?
First of all, I think we will see some stuff of note on Friday. And
the way they line up is going to count.
Yeah, and they'll even if it's not they've been in pads the last couple of days, so if it's not a full contact practice on Friday, they'll still line up and do some team stuff. So it's not going to be like a totally waste of.
They're not going to waste an entire day.
Yeah, they're going to practice.
They're not going to
show
a lot.
Yeah, you're right. Which is typical. That's fine. But we still get to see guys move around and how they line up. And I want to see what this tackle rotation stuff looks like. Like how much is Josh Fryer actually cross-training at right tackle and I guess vice versa for the Tegra Chabola and Josh Simmons. It is kind of funny. It's like, we're flipping guys around. It's like, you only have one guy playing on the left, so he's got to move to the right and everyone else has to move to the left side. So it'll be interesting. And like if those are first team reps, like is Josh Fryer taking second team right tackle reps and first team left tackle reps? I don't know. I think I will be watching that pretty closely when we get out here on the practice field later today.
That's right.
We're going to see the center battle too, because Ryan Day sort of left the door open for that to be more of a competition than probably most people were considering between Carson Hinsman and Vic Cutler. So
to me, that was the surprise of his entire Wednesday press conference.
That was the bigger bombshell.
That he essentially said Jacob James is running third in that battle. That was a shock to me. And you were there. Like, what was your sense? I was not in the building on Wednesday. Like, what was your sense of, like, what the reason for that was?
I don't know if I feel like I got a reason for it. I was surprised only because, like, when we saw Vic Cutler in the spring, I thought that is a 1 year down the road proposition if he's going to play for this team. Mm-hmm. And I still think that is probably the case. I think Ryan Day's probably trying to light a little bit of a fire under Carson Hinsman and make sure that he's locked in to be the guy. I don't think he's in tremendous jeopardy of losing that job to Vic Cutler or Jacob James. But to remove like one of the three from the conversation entirely was a little surprising. We'll see what that looks like, because when we were out here on the first day of camp, at least when they were like doing snapping stuff, they were rotating between Jacob and Carson with the two guys who were battling for the quarterback job. So I think there's a decent enough chance that we might see Jacob James get some first team reps at the center position too. I don't think that's locked up just yet. I don't think it's actually just a 2-man race, but I think Ryan Day is doing everything he possibly can to make sure that they have the expectation that Carson Hinsman better perform every day because they want him to be the center.
Yeah, you wondered if there was some of that going on with Josh Jimmy Simmons as well. Like, well, Luke Montgomery's coming, and he's here. You've arrived from San Diego State, but nothing is promised to you, and we really like this young freshman. He's going to have an opportunity. So there could be some of that going on. I don't know how much in the first week and a half, once you get to this point of camp, how much you're truly trying to experiment, because, that game is coming up faster than you think. And if you want to take care of some of your starters as well, you're going to have some of those maintenance days that Berm mentioned, like that CJ Stroud had one a couple of years ago. JT Tuimoloau doesn't need to practice every single day this month. So that management and that workload becomes a little bit more challenging as you go on. And you don't want to be in a situation where you get to, a week from now, it's like, we're still not sure who's going to play left tackle or what the rotation is going to be at defensive end. I think that a lot of this stuff is going to be decided by Sunday night once they break down that film, and I think I would wager that the quarterback battle is done by that point too.
Done?
That's
done.
A bold statement, my friend. This is not a bold predictions episode of Freaky Friday, but that is a bold prediction. I disagree with that assertion, and I'm not.
Why?
Because I don't. I know Ryan Day is happy to use coach speak in press conference settings and that sort of stuff. I don't think you say it's going back and forth every day, because
he's making it go back and forth.
He said on Wednesday that it's been back and forth, and I don't think he means the order in which they're playing with the first team. I think he means the performance who's out front, because we've seen it. We saw it in the spring. There was no clear separation as far as performance, practice to practice. We saw it a week ago when first practice we're out here. Devin Brown looked to throw the ball better that day. We've heard from players like every day it seems to go back and forth. And I don't think, and I've seen some people wonder or question, like, does that mean that it should automatically be Devin's job? Kyle's been here a year longer. If he's not separating, shouldn't they just give it to Devin? Like, that's not smart, I don't think. I just don't think it's going to be done. Now, if we have this conversation next Friday, after the Saturday, the 19th scrimmage or the 20th or whatever day that is, then I think that's the end point. But to say that it's going to be done this Sunday, hard disagree.
I have a question. So I feel like it's been like you have been the farthest down the line of like Kyle McCord is going to be the starting quarterback. I've mostly been there, but I've left it open for Devin Brown. He thinks Lincoln Keenholz is going to be the starting quarterback.
Backed up by Tristan Gebbia.
By Tristan Gebbia. So if
maybe he's looking at the depth chart dyslexic.
Oh yeah, it's a top. The guy on top is a starter.
Since when?
He's never seen an oar on the depth chart.
I don't think that. Well, that was weird. What was Adam Schefter talking about? I've never seen or on a depth chart. Have you ever? You covered football for your whole life.
Yeah.
Anyway,
here's my question. So if we get to next Wednesday's availability with Ryan Day, and he does not indicate in any way whatsoever that there is separation in favor of Kyle McCord, what does that do to how you personally view the quarterback competition?
Yeah, I would think that reflects very well on Devin Brown. The comment that Ryan Day made on Wednesday that was most interesting to me was not the back and forth thing, because I think that is designed to keep them both engaged and keep the media, from making any assessments or saying one thing over the other. And I think it's also designed by the way that the practices have been structured with the reps rotating. So the quote that I thought that was most interesting was, the pads haven't been on. You haven't had to get into, 3rd and 4, and you have to move the chains with a pass rush in your face. You haven't had to break down every route, make a decision under pressure, where 7-on-7 and the ability to throw routes on air and pure arm talent are going to, they're cool, and they say if you might be able to do that. I took that to mean that and maybe I'll be wrong, that the experience factor, the knowledge of the playbook, the having 2 years of experience doing that stuff in a practice as well, was likely to be a deciding factor, and that favors, in my mind, Kyle McCord pretty clearly. I'll, if I'm wrong, I'll throw my hand up and say that I am, but I thought that the fact that he mentioned that as being different than going out and having some good 7-on-7 work was significant for me. But
I think that's fair. I think maybe, and I probably agree with you, but if I were to play devil's advocate, I would say Kyle McCord's like thing in this is that he is like more of a pure passer. He's a pocket guy. He's going to drop back there and kind of dissect you, which was to me like he's a good 7-on-7 quarterback. And when we put the pads on and bodies are flying around, you got to go make a play. Does that suit Devin a little more? Like I'm not saying that's the case, but I think that is the other side of that coin.
I understand that it can be open for interpretation, and anybody that really wants Devin Brown, and I'm not saying this is you in this situation. We've had this conversation on the message board at ohiostate.rivals.com. Somebody that really thinks that Devin Brown should be the starting quarterback is going to view it through that lens.
100%. Yeah.
And I get that. It's open for interpretation, and I think that Kyle McCord is the leader, so I'm listening to that, and it validates my opinion.
I don't know why anyone at this point would have a strong personal preference one way or the other.
Yeah, there's really not much to go off
Like,
of.
I mean, even if based on what you saw in limited practice availability or whatever, you think one may be ahead, like, why would you personally care who the quarterback needs to be the best quarterback?
Right.
So there is this weird, like, factioning happening that I don't understand.
It's because Kyle McCord didn't throw 7 touchdowns against Akron.
Yeah, I think it's very strange. Like, whichever guy plays better should be the quarterback. So I think it is obviously something Ryan Day wants to keep in mind. Like, he's been here, he's got more experience, but Devin Brown's been here a year and a half. It's not like Kyle McCord was here for 6 months ahead of, or 1 year ahead of Devin Brown, but Devin Brown knows the playbook. He understands what it takes to be. Now you have to go out and put it on the field and actually do it. But like the fact that there are people who are adamant, like, this is the quarterback, how can you do that?
I don't think that you can, but that is one thing. Like, and Friday will probably end up not being the proper stage for that. But I do feel like we watched what, like, if you include the spring game, we watched 5 full practices in the spring. We saw the first practice of camp here, and throughout that entire time, I don't know that I was wowed by any quarterback or either quarterback in a way that says, like, that's definitely the guy.
Yeah, like we saw that. We saw that with CJ.
Yeah, so I'm curious if we see it on Friday.
Yeah, we saw that with CJ. We saw that with other quarterbacks in the past. We're like, okay, with Justin, you're like, okay, this guy does things the other guys just can't do. So it was easy to sit here and say, that's the quarterback. So also, Justin Fields was competing against Matthew Baldwin and Chris Stroganoff. So, like, it made it a lot easier. This is a situation where you have 2 5-stars going at it, and I think we're all so spoiled by what we've seen out of the quarterback position at Ohio State in the last few years that neither one of them stepping up and being like head and shoulders above anyone or being like what we would call like great in the time we've seen it. Maybe it's just unfair expectations, but the standard is the standard and blah, blah, blah. I just don't know how anyone can say that this is done or close. I hope for Ohio State's sake, because I do care that Ohio State I want Ohio State to win games. I'm not ashamed to say that. I hope for their sake, one of these quarterbacks in the next 2 days comes out and puts this to bed, because that's the best thing for the program moving forward. And now, to your point, like, some of this may be designed in order to keep people engaged and buying into the fight. But like, I think the better thing is to have a quarterback who you know is your guy and you can prepare for the next 3 weeks with that person in mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you take the back and forth stuff at face value, that's a good thing for Ohio State as well, that they're both good enough to be in that conversation. And if the decision becomes really difficult, cool, that has some benefit for you. If you lose one, then the other can step up and play. But I do feel like if they already are leaning one way going into this weekend, and I don't know that they are or aren't based on those. Again, if we're going on face value, we'd say that they aren't. But coming out of spring, to me, it felt like the leader was apparent. And I think that the team stuff we saw from Kyle McCord, and this is just my opinion, was better and more productive than what I saw from Devin Brown.
I agree in spring. I mean, I thought the same thing. And then Devin hurts himself, and you figure that should afford Kyle some separation. But the fact that if we're believing everything that we're hearing, then the fact that gap has seemed to close is interesting.
Yeah.
Peculiar.
But I don't know that it was that dramatically wide either. I think one had a better spring than the other, and I don't know what would have changed over the last week. If the margin is the same, that still can be good for Ohio State, but it still points towards Kyle McCord. But I'd like for it to be done so that I can either say that I'm wrong or that Ohio State is doing what I thought it might.
Quick reminder on the timeline of how these things have gone. So CJ Stroud was named the starter, I believe it was like the 21st of August, which I'm pretty sure was like the week before the second scrimmage. We heard separation, and then immediately after that second scrimmage, he was the starter. So first scrimmage is this week, next week, second scrimmage down the road. I think I'd be pretty surprised if we heard anything definitive next week, but maybe someone will put on a show.
But I'd like to.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else to watch on Friday? There's going to be footballs, Bill, I promise you.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see the offense. I want to see the deployment of the running backs. I want to see. We saw, again, a week ago, it was shells. They weren't like fully padded. They weren't doing a lot of full contact stuff, but there was a lot of footballs being thrown to the running backs. And I don't think that was just because, let's just do this. It's practice. We got it seemed intentional when they were in full team, work. I'd like to see how that happens again on Friday. I want to see if that's Evan Pryor starting to emerge and finding that role that they clearly had penciled in for him a year ago. And if that is now something that's back on the table. I told Austin before we started recording this, we've talked about the fact that I have a prediction in for Quinn Ewers, a bet on Quinn Ewers winning the Heisman.
Some units.
I think I have to put in another one for Travion Henderson because
it's backtrack season.
Something is just no, I'm not taking the one off the board.
You should. You should cash it out immediately.
I just feel like there's something different about Travion right now, personality wise, energy wise, that is giving me this feeling like we're gonna see.
Do you want to set money on fire?
That I want to set money on fire. Yeah. When was the last time a running back won the Heisman? Was it Mark Ingram?
Right.
2011.
Did Derrick Henry get his hands on it or no? He's just a finalist.
No, because McCaffrey didn't.
McCaffrey did not.
Okay.
I think it's been all quarterbacks with the exception of Devontae Smith for the last 10 years.
Obviously, it's a tough wager to make, but point is, I want to see these running backs be as good as they should be. If this is the best running back room in the country, 1 to 5, which I think it is because it's 1 to 5, I think that there's a way to really, crazy as it sounds when you have the 2 best receivers in the country, I think there's a way to build this offense around the running backs, and I'm interested to see how they deploy them all.
Okay, Bill, you good?
H's on B's.
HOBs.
HOBs. See how much of that happens on Friday.
How much do you think we will see of the safeties in the first team that we saw a week ago?
Probably not at all because we've been talking too much about it.
I mean, that's the thing. How much are these guys willing to just?
I hope they're done with the split squad stuff so that we can at least, throw us one bone, Ryan Day.
Splitsies.
End that. Just go out there and let's see some 1s, some 2s, some 3s.
See, this is where we disagree. I think it's the super smart thing to do is to get guys more reps and have them all out there.
But today's gonna.
But not for our purposes.
Yeah, but
whose side are you on?
Who's trying to get better here, them or us?
Them?
Probably.
Well, we'll find a way to get the maximum amount of information out of it, no matter what. Then we'll be back here, right here, later on today, Friday, Freaky Friday, for some Snappy Jays. Thanks for joining us for this. We'll have a lot more coverage coming all weekend long. That's Bill and Berm. I am Austin. Thanks again. Talk to you later.